Hi. Hey.
Hey.
We had a Latte Art session a few days ago.
Yes.
Where you poured tremendously nice things.
Thank you very much.
And now we're gonna follow this up with a podcast about it.
Yeah.
But to start things off, once again, for those who haven't met you, who are you?
My name is Amanda, and I work as a barista. I have worked within coffee a few years, and I run a coffee Instagram where I mainly focus on latte art, and it's my big passion.
Yeah.
And I'm totally self-taught, but I've learned a lot a few years now.
That's good.
So yeah.
Have you been working on like big fairs and stuff, doing like these crazy 5,000 cappuccinos a day things?
Yeah, a few events I've done, like commercial cafes and now also specialty coffee. So like I've had quite a vary of different experiences.
Yes, because for me, when I kind of learned for real how to pour stuff, it was during the years when we did a lot of medicine fairs. Where we literally did like 2,000 cappuccinos a day. It was like
a
crazy.
lot of repetition.
And then you really nailed how to pour. Like for me, kind of stop there. I can do like the heart, the tulip, and the Rosetta, and I like it how it is. And but it's
symmetrical.
Like it's like riding a bike. If you ride a bike, you know how to ride a bike. But if someone kind of gently pushes you, you can stabilize and push the brakes. And I think that's kind of the same thing when doing latte art. You can manage to pour a heart or a Rosetta, but if someone pushes you during the same time, then you still have to manage to pull it off. And that's kind of a cafe environment, like people just messing around
all over the place, and different like people talking to you, all different type of stuff. For me, I did a lot of like theoretical work. So I watched a lot of YouTube and try to identify techniques and learn for those who know and actually are really good to educate. So I learned theoretically and then practice it practically. And I think also that's why one of the reasons why I'm super hard on myself when it comes to like patterns, I wanted to look a certain way to make it like how I want it to look like. And I watched a lot of YouTubes, and then when I went to work, I work in a cafe with pretty high volume, so I got to learn pretty quickly, learn to do the pours correctly right away and that kind of stuff. But a lot of trial and error, a lot of error, definitely.
But are you doing latte art even though you're gonna put a lid on the takeaway? Yeah,
always. I don't think I ever do
just
a milk beverage without a latte art. Never.
No, but like repetition and make it 1,000 times or 10,000 times.
Exactly.
Like that.
And like for all different types of cups, you have to do different techniques and also to learn a variety. I've also learned that like different jugs, you have to have different techniques. So there's a lot of variables that can impact how the latte art looks and how you have to pour.
How much do you differentiate your technique when it comes to cow's milk versus, say, oat?
I feel like there's quite a big difference. Cow's milk is a lot thicker, and you can make a lot more definition between like contrast between the like coffee and milk. But with like plant-based milk, it's a lot more flowy. So whatever you do, if you do moving techniques, it really moves with it. So you have to be mindful of how much pressure you put. So you really I usually think that you have to pour more carefully because cow's milk can really go down under the surface and like not show up as white foam. So just disappear. Versus like oat milk usually still like shows on top and can spread much easier, I'd say.
So when I pour oats, which I mainly work with, especially now last couple of months, I learned from someone that just splash in and then swirl the espresso with the oat milk.
Yeah, it's not a technique I do. It's like definitely can make it easier. Yeah. It depends on how well you're familiar with mixing the milk with the espresso. Me, I usually do like pretty rough mixing when I do with plant-based just to make an even base. Yeah. But another technique is the swirl technique, and it works really well. Yeah. The only thing you have to be mindful of is to not do like take your time with it, because it can set. Yeah,
that's true. So during our photo session, you did pour some amazing latte art. But if we're gonna kind of structure it from the list, we went through the heart, tulip.
Yes.
You did this Rosetta, Seahorse, and then we talked about swans.
I believe, yeah.
So if you're gonna, as a novice rookie, and when it comes to, I can pull off the first 2 or 3. Yeah. Please talk us through. So we also get some nice voiceovers for the internet reels out there.
So I usually always start to say that all latte art is built with 3 patterns. It's the heart, the tulip, and the Rosetta. Heart and tulip is also pretty similar because it's based on the same technique, only that you layer it. So it's kind of also known as a layered heart, the tulip. And I always teach the heart first. It's the easiest to learn, and it's really pretty. And like that's no one doesn't like. There's no one who do not want a heart on their coffee. And then when you familiarize yourself with these 3 patterns, you can build most patterns. Because it's the same techniques, and you can always find these 3 things in patterns. If we start with the heart, you want me to like go through?
Maybe
like
you should
when we
have a cup in your hand, so kind of visualize while you're talking, if it's possible.
Okay, so also with pouring technique, you always want to angle your cup towards your jug. And this is because the closeness to the surface plays a big part when you do a pattern. So always when you do further apart from the espresso, it's the mixing part, I'd say. Yeah. It's where you mix your foam and you don't really want to get any like whiteness. You want to make a pretty base, even base. When you come close to the surface is when the white usually shows. And this is milk foam theory. So closest to the surface is where the pattern shows, and it's what you do with that makes the pattern. So for the heart, you are further up, you're mixing a base about 60%, I'd say. You want the cup to be about 60% full. You can stop. I usually recommend stopping. To then go closer with the jug to the cup, and then always follow with the cup when you pour, because otherwise the liquid will just fall out of the cup. So follow and pour a steady stream. So you have to pour more and more each time. And when you want to cut through to make a heart, so that will make a kind of a round shape. When you want to cut through the heart, you want to lift up the jug again to be able to make that the foam going down under. You don't want to make any white when cutting through. So that will make the coffee kind of bending inwards. So I said, aim for the middle, pour till you see it's getting a round shape, lift up and cut through when you're up there. That's where you get the most round heart.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And what about the wiggy wiggy?
The wiggle wiggle. Yes, there's the wiggle wiggle heart also, which is kind of this same theory that you want to be up and then closer to get the surface. I'd say start pour when you see the white coming through. You can start to wiggle a little bit back and forth
But not go backwards, right?
No, never go backwards, because then you will get a wonky shape. So you want to always aim for the middle, aim for the same place, and the milk will behave like it will go around where you pour to get a heart shape.
Cool. That's amazing. This will be super good with the visuals. I'm quite sure of that. So if you're then pushing hearts multiple times, I guess that you will make tulips, right?
Yes.
How do you talk us through?
So with tulip is a little bit also using a pushing technique. So you always aim for the middle. But when you aim for the middle, you stop, and then start again when you're aiming for the middle. And it will push the pattern away from you. So I usually start to make it pretty similar to the heart when I make the first one. A bigger base, exactly. And then when you do the second pour or the second push, it will move and create space for the new layer. Usually it's only with the last one I place a little behind the middle and only placing, not pushing as much. So I'm like starting to pour and placing. And then it's the same technique as the heart. You lift up and you cut through. Yeah.
I'm thinking of a needle. Like you're taking a needle and just push it through.
It's kind of... but like when you're drawing also, like it will drag along. Yeah. You can imagine like putting a toothpick through like cake batter.
And the important there is to have the needle thin. Yeah. Like otherwise it will be this pushy, destroying shape.
Exactly. And you still need the liquid. So if you only have foam left in your cup, it will be a white line instead of cutting through.
So how many layers in a regular tulip do you do?
In a regular basic tulip, I usually do 3 layers, but you can do as many as you can fit. It's almost a competition sometimes, like how many layers can you fit before you have to cut through. So it can be up to like 10, 15, 20 layers if you're really good. But it's all the same pushing technique. It's just how much room you have in the cup. Nice. A pretty basic one, I'd say, is a 3-layer tulip.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And another technique, but still traditional latte art, is the Rosetta.
Yes.
What's your thoughts about that?
That's the hardest one. That's the one I struggle with the most. And also I know is the hardest one to learn because it combines a few techniques you do. And you have to have a little bit of like being used to tilting the cup, moving back and forth with the cup, knowing a little bit of pushing technique, and just being a little bit more familiar with pouring latte art, which is why it's usually the last one I teach. It's also one you can do in parts to make it a bit easier to learn.
Explain that.
Yes. So a Rosetta is kind of like, it has a base. So it's kind of like the tulip base when you make the one go around. So it's not like a heart. It's on the bottom of the cup. And then it has what I call a stem. So it's also traditionally called as a leaf. It's commonly known as also. But for me, it usually has a rounded, like a tulip bottom part, a stem, and then you pull through. Yep. Sometimes also it's made with a heart on the top. This is there's a bit of like old school Rosettas, new school Rosettas, and there's a lot of like discussion, and I think it's just a personal preference which one you do. So, but the one I teach is a little bit towards the new school than the old school.
I know I had a barista back in the days working for me, and he did like super slow Rosettas. It was like 3 moves.
And I actually call that a variant as a slow setta.
Yeah. It's cool. Shout out to Nico, Scandinavian Embassy.
Exactly.
The slowest pourer out there.
But it's super nice. That's also a super nice, and also using a little bit different technique, but are having kind of the same idea of it. So with the Rosetta, I'd say do it as you do a tulip base. Even if you wiggle, my habit is to wiggle it down, but you can also just push it down. And when you have to combine a push technique with the pull technique. So you need to push it down, and then from when you get the pattern down, you pull at the same time as you wiggle. Yeah. And for the most beautiful Rosetta is the most continuous wiggles and the most it looks the same on both sides. And as I said, many people rush through it and think you have to almost have a tremor to make wiggles, but I think it's commonly mistaken because usually it's more the slower wiggles, so it's much slower than you think. So usually I push forward, I wiggle forward, and then wiggle backwards. Then I usually put it down a little bit to have the heart a little bit more hearty. And then as all other techniques, up and pull through.
So I'm see myself as an old school Rosetta. I like to pour the Rosetta without a contrast ring. Because I just think it's tastes better to drink. And also I personally don't like when you push the Rosettas, especially the bottom part or the first part with a million wiggles. Like the stem part. I just want the flowy stem, and then the best is to get half a heart on the top. So you get one last leaf, and then you just slice it through.
And that's really personal preference, whatever style you like the most.
But I haven't learned anything else since that, so I go with
so
it.
Maybe you need to develop your flavor a little bit.
No, it's too late.
So that's one I do, and then definitely you can do a slow setup, which is a little bit more towards pushing technique, because you go back and forth, and when you go back and forth, you have to maybe round out the corners. I feel like
it's close to painting, but it's not
exactly,
or not etching or something like that.
So it's more you're drawing with the
but if you get it down, then you get really nice.
It's super nice when you get it down. It's one I usually feel is hard also to learn. So I usually teach the regular Rosetta first, because then you get used to unanimous wiggles, and then you can elevate that to slow wiggle.
Cool. Nice. We have 2 more on the list for now that are advanced and non-symmetrical.
Exactly.
So I don't care about them anymore. But everyone else does. So talk us through, I think the Swan is the most famous one, but you are down on seahorses, which are amazing.
I like seahorses a lot just because it's using different techniques, and you can make it really, really adorable. What I like, it's a little bit cartoony. But I really do like the different techniques you use in it. So for a seahorse, you also have to learn how to turn the cup as you do the pattern.
And you would say maybe a bigger cup than you have in your hand.
Usually a bigger cup. It's a little bit hard on this one. But I usually do a cappuccino cup. It's a little bit more space, not as narrow on the bottom, and you shall have more surface. I'd say a cup with more surface makes it easier for you to make a pattern. And I'd say for seahorse, you always start with the ear. That's also one thing I feel is really important, not talked about enough. Have the pattern so that when you hold it and drink it, it's towards you. It's just satisfaction.
I've seen so many commercials on town from all the big companies where they show off their fake cappuccinos from their automatic machines, but still they haven't even got the ear
exactly and then center and it's all crooked, experience. So it's upside down when you drink it. So I always have the ear part towards me when I do the basic patterns. That way, most people are right-handed. Yes. So when people drink with the right hand, they have the pattern towards them. If you know a lefty, then do it the other way.
That's pro.
Yes. But with the Seahorse, I start with the ear facing to my right. And always do a mixing part. If you don't mix milk foam with espresso, will not be able to do a pattern, because what latte art just is contrasting the milk foam that's mixed with coffee with milk foam you haven't mixed with coffee yet. So it's all milk foam really you're drawing with. It's just that the contrast is what makes the pattern show. So, Seahorse. You start with the tulip. You can make it actually how grand you want, and it's the fin you start with, the fin of the Seahorse. And I usually, if you do a basic one, I do your regular 3-layer tulip. Do it a small one, so I aim it for the bottom part to be around the middle of the cup. 3-part, cut it through, and then you just have about a little bit more than half full cup with a little tulip by the ear. And then it's the turning technique. You have to turn it.
Not 180 degrees?
No, it's 45 degrees.
45 degrees.
Yeah, 45 degrees. So you have the air forcing away from you. And you make a Rosetta technique. But different from when you make a Rosetta pattern, it's like the Rosettas you like. And you just have the stem of it. Yeah. It's the technique you're using, not really the pattern. So you do a wiggle, and then it's a little bit of drawing. So I make a little bit the traditional seahorse tail, a little what's it called, spiral, and turn it again. And this time you turn it 180 degrees. So you have a fin part, a bottom part. Then you want to make a part for the neck. Yeah. And this is also optional, because you can also do the neck part before you do the fin part. Those are because they are doing like kind of at the same time. So it doesn't matter which one you start with, just which one you're most comfortable with. I think I usually actually do the neck part before I do the fin part. When I've done the fin, usually if I have a lot of liquid, I pour it out. I want to use like semi-dry foam.
Oh, so you pour out in between the head.
Yeah, if I have a lot of liquid, because otherwise I won't get that like foam to draw with, because I have too much liquid. So then I have to usually have another jug, so I pour out the liquid and just use the foam to draw with. Follow the contour of a neck, like kind of an S shape, and but doing it from the bottom up. I do a circle to make a little bit of contrast for making the eye. And I go and do the lips. So I do a circle. Then when I get back from where I started with the circle, I just go out, do a little V shape for the lips, and then go back to the eye. And this is where you can also make it a style choice, how you want the eye. If you just want a round eye, you can just leave it with that. I like to make them cute, so I push up a little bit, so it gets like if you draw a half circle. Make them look a little bit cute. And then it's also common to make a little bit of bubbles. It's under the sea. There's a dot.
And you said to me, they are so cute because they become like small hearts if you do them correctly.
Exactly. So it is a small, a little bit because the shape of the picture. Just make it full around. It's like a little heart.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. And we have a few more minutes before you are heading off. Talk us through the Swan as well.
Yes. So the Swan, I'd say, is a development of the Rosetta. Yeah. Because for a Swan bottom, you need to have that base, as the Rosetta I like to do. Then just do it like a Rosetta. Just. Exactly. But you do it exactly like you do a Rosetta, only that you just do it a little bit on an angle to make room for making a neck. And this is like 3 techniques in one. So it's kind of like making a base, pulling back for a Rosetta a little. I usually do it a little bit towards me.
Yep.
And then either you can pull down like I do, trace the side of the Rosetta you've done, doing a little bit of a U shape to getting back up again, going down to make a heart as the head.
Yeah.
There's also a swan that is like you pull back, you do like a cut through, but only on the side. That will not make foam appear, but it will make that side pull together a little bit and then start from the bottom to make a neck up.
Okay.
So you don't make a U shape, you just do like a line up and then do the heart. It's two different types of like what type of style you like.
So both of these two are more advanced, the Rosetta and the Seahorse. You have to have like bigger cups, right? It's hard to pull off in a takeaway cup. Or is it impossible? Or?
It's not impossible, definitely. You can learn how to do it. Usually with a taller cup, you have to have a little bit more of a base. Yeah. So when you do it in the mixing, I'd say mix up to like 70% of the cup. Otherwise, you won't be able to make the pattern shown because it's not close enough to the surface. You can't like reach it to make the pattern appear. But I'd say it's definitely a lot harder to do in a takeaway cup or in a taller cup even. But it's not impossible.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this walkthrough. I learned a lot, and I will watch the video myself in training purpose, definitely. And good luck on future adventures.
Thank you very much.
Exciting stuff is coming up. And
definitely.
Next time we maybe should dive even deeper into the specific patterns. Yeah. Doing like a pure heart video with different techniques, and maybe we haven't touched on foaming techniques.
Exactly.
We haven't touched on if you differentiate foaming technique for what you're gonna pour.
Yeah.
And then for next video you need to learn how to make the inverted heart.
Yes.
Because that is so cool, I think. Yeah. I've managed to pull it off a few times, but it's that could be another video. Yeah. So follow us and follow Amanda on Instagram.
Yes.
Do you have a YouTube channel?
I don't have a YouTube channel. I mainly use Instagram right now. We'll see what the future holds.
Hook you up with one. Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.